Fox 5 is saluting those who have served over the next half hour. We're going to take a look back at some of those inspirational, courageous, and heroic stories of veterans from across our region.
Fox 5 is also partnering with the organization U.S. Vets and supporting their campaign, Make Camo Your Cause. It's a nonprofit, and their mission is to end veteran homelessness in the U.S.
And our first story honors a man who had a special place right here in our Fox 5 family. Brigadier General Charles McGee lived in Bethesda, Maryland. He passed away back in January 16th at the age of 102.
He was one of the last surviving members of the Tuskegee Airmen, which was a group of the first black pilots in the U.S. military. Now, McGee's life of dedicated service included flying combat aircrafts in 3 major wars. And 2 years ago, our Gwen Talbert had the chance to sit down with McGee. And of course, we want to honor him by showing that interview yet again.
Let's kind of roll back a little bit. Tell me about the day you enlisted in the service.
Oh my goodness, that goes back a few years. But I had learned about the opportunity for blacks to be considered for aviation training. And although I had not aspired to be a pilot, I learned about it because the Army policy at the time was they can't use black pilots because they don't have black mechanics. So of the now called Tuskegee Airmen, the first was mechanics trained at the technical school, Chanute Field, Illinois, and I learned about it, but I took the pilot exam and a few months later got called to go directly into training as a cadet. I made the right decision because after my first flight, I was hooked. I loved to be able to get in the air, loop, roll, and spin, come back, put your feet on the ground. I was hooked.
You were hooked. Tell me about all the different wars that you served in.
My first experience in World War II time frame, we'd call air superiority, because our mission was to help save American lives. Korea, completely different story. It was interdiction and ground support. And then my experience in Vietnam was intelligence gathering. We carried no weapons. Our defense was speed.
On this Veterans Day, what advice do you have for someone who may be saying, I think I want to join the military, who's considering joining the military?
You know, I'd certainly encourage them with that thought to go for it. It's important.
I'd like to thank you so much for your service, General McGee, for all you and all the Tuskegee Airmen that have done for your country, and all you have given to all of us.
I appreciate that very much, and certainly we're proud of and wish the very best for those now serving and the future veterans, if you will, and certainly Godspeed for those who have served.
Brigadier General Charles McGee flew 409 combat missions in the Air Force, and we want to thank him again for his service.
Absolutely. And our next story features a Maryland Army veteran who finally received a Prisoner of War medal after an 18-year battle. It's not only a story of endurance, but also a frustrating fight against red tape to make things right.
Our Tom Fitzgerald takes us back to June 23rd on Capitol Hill when that medal was finally awarded.
This is a remarkable story of endurance. Ronald DeLucky is a U.S. Army veteran who now lives in Huntington, Maryland. And while his service to the United States Army took place during the Vietnam War, his story does not take place in the Vietnam War. Here's what happened. Back in 1965, DeLucky was serving in the United States Army in Ethiopia. He was on a mapping mission, and that is where he was captured by armed rebels in that country. He was forced to go on a 150-mile forced march, and he was subjected to brutal, brutal conditions. Now, he endured all of that. Amazingly, he was able to actually escape and rescue 2 other prisoners. But that's not where the story ends, because all these years later, more than 55 years later, he has been fighting to get a Prisoner of War medal awarded to him from the United States Army. But the regulations were standing in the way until today, when Virginia and Maryland senators got together today with the U.S. Army general to award Ron DeLucky his POW medal.
Everybody that heard my story said to me, there's even a video, YouTube video about me that somebody posted called The Forgotten Prisoner of War. And I stumbled on it one day, and I looked at that, and I thought, that's weird. Even the Army doesn't call me a prisoner of war.
Ron's wife, Linda, wanted to surprise Ron with a gift, a special surprise. So she applied for him to receive the POW Medal from the Army. Unfortunately, that request was denied. 18 years later, we're finally able to secure the recognition that Ron Delecky so clearly deserves.
Incredible. The Army also awarded today a Prisoner of War Medal to David Strickland of Manassas, Virginia. Much like Delecky, he was taken prisoner, but 10 years later in Ethiopia, also kept as a prisoner of war, but was also kept in this maze of red tape that prevented him from getting the medal he earned until today.
Beyond deserving. And our next story is about a World War II soldier who's now buried at Arlington National Cemetery. And for years, his family, they never really knew what happened to him. They only knew that he never made it home.
Our David Kaplan takes us back to June 27th and brings us to the tale of soldier X756.
We honor the dead by talking about them, by remembering them. But closure has evaded this family.
I knew my grandfather had a brother that was lost in action.
X756, as he became known, enlisted in the U.S. Army with his 3 older brothers when he was 18 to fight in World War II. He died when he was just 20, fighting in France. The area he died so dangerous, the Army couldn't go get his body for a year and a half. Only then, they discovered him in a mass grave and took him to an American cemetery in Belgium. While his American family never knew what happened to him, the Army kept working. Great-nephew Travis Finkel.
They reached out in 2020, and that's when we really got excited about the possibility of him finally coming home and hoping it was him.
The Army long suspected X756 to be Army Private First Class Morris Swackhammer, but lacked the confirmation to properly identify him. His body was exhumed in Belgium, brought to Nebraska, and 1 year ago tomorrow, confirmed it was him, thanks in large part to a DNA match.
It was excitement.
Carol Finkel is Swackhammer's niece, Travis Finkel, recording this video of his great-uncle's body getting to D.C. from Nebraska last Friday. He posted it to TikTok. It's got thousands of likes. The date of burial, the 1-year anniversary of his identification, the location.
Almost the family unanimously said Arlington National Cemetery, where my father's at.
Swackhammer's older brother Leon died in the 1970s and was buried at Arlington National. At a funeral with honors on Tuesday, Swackhammer will finally rest with family by his side.
And to have him come home and get the honors that he deserved and to be close to my dad is wonderful.
From Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Arkansas, Swackhammer's family members who didn't know each other existed came to celebrate his life, to honor him by remembering him. After 78 years, closure.
I just think of the sacrifice that he gave at such a young age, but now the honor and pride that I have knowing, what he did for us, but then the excitement of having all these new family members that I never knew before.
More than 3/4 of a century. That was David Kaplan reporting. 5 generations of Swackhammer's family members attended that burial back in June.
All right, still to come, a new app is helping Arlington National Cemetery visitors learn more about those service members that are buried there. That story next. And before we head to break, Fox 5 salutes our nation's veterans and the organizations that serve them every day. That is why we are making camo our cause in support of the Honor U.S. Vets campaign. You can join us by making a donation and wearing camo this Veterans Day. Post your camo on social with hashtag Honor U.S. Vets. Share your support for the Make Camo Your Cause campaign by using the QR code on your screen or going to fox5dc.com. Welcome back. Fox 5 is honoring those who have served. And back in May, the Honor Flight Network celebrated a milestone of bringing 250,000 veterans right here to our nation's capital.
Our Gwen Talbert was there that day when hundreds of veterans, dignitaries, and supporters gathered at the World War II Memorial in Northwest D.C. to commemorate the occasion. Take a look.
It certainly is a day of celebration, a day of honor, and a day of respect for all those who have served their country and fought for us. With me now is Meredith Rosenbeck, who is CEO of Honor Flight Network. How exciting is this that you've reached this milestone?
It's truly an incredible milestone. For any organization, nonprofit organization, to have served 250,000 veterans is an incredible milestone, but also we want to set the course for the future. There are future generations of veterans out there that we still want to honor with their day here at their memorials in Washington, D.C.
And of course, it's not so much what war they served in, but the fact that they served and served for their country, and so respecting them.
That is absolutely correct. We serve veterans currently from World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, and any time periods in between, as well as terminally ill veterans from any period of service. We want to make sure our veterans have a day to be honored here in D.C.
And for veterans who traveled here from all over the country, this event is significant for them and for generations to come. How important was this to you?
This is tremendous. It's surreal. It's something that I was supposed to come in March of 2020. And of course it was canceled on the 19th. So I've waited 2 years and 2 months for this. These are my heroes, each and every one of them. I don't care if you guarded a ship in Philadelphia shipyards or if you were in Korea, World War II, D-Day. This is just, I can't really explain it. It's just tremendous.
Senator Bob Dole and his wife greeted veterans every time an honor flight came to D.C. In fact, he said that time does not diminish their emotions, their pride, or their memories. Today, Elizabeth Dole is the honorary chair.
I have the pleasure of seeing these monuments frequently, and every time they fill my heart with gratitude for the generations of men and women who have served our country, and for the incredible good fortune it is to be an American.
And while today is very significant in honoring the vets that are here, we always have to remember that we have to honor them each and every day with respect for all they've done for us and for their country. Back to you.
Well, our next story takes us to Arlington National Cemetery, where a volunteer group is using a new app to help visitors who wish to pay their respects.
That group is called Stories Behind the Stars. Our Stephanie Ramirez has more.
We first told you about this effort on Veterans Day. It's a group called Stories Behind the Stars, working with over 100 volunteers to put together profiles of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice during World War II. Well, that's over 400,000 people, so it's a very big undertaking. But the founder of the group says there should only be one tomb of the unknown soldier, and recently reached out to say they have an update. I was told that the group is now using the app Find a Grave and was able to complete and upload over 2,000 hero stories for the over 4,000 World War II service members recognized here at Arlington National Cemetery. Now you can see some of how it works on your screen there. You go under the memorial search area, plug in the service member's name, and completed bios will show up, even with a photo. Captain Fred Brink Jr. is an example. According to his profile, Brink enlisted after Pearl Harbor, broke his back, and still returned to battle. His plane went down overseas. He was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart.
My greatest goal is to ensure that the individuals carry the same agency and the same amount of value and importance, and don't get rewritten, so to speak, or written over by these national narratives that we've created. All of these battles, these events were created by individuals.
And some of the headstones at Arlington National Cemetery don't even have a casket underneath. So Brink's profile, it says he was missing in action, but now those who wrote and viewed his story are just a little bit closer to him. Arlington National Cemetery, they also have their own app. So they're not exactly sanctioning the group's app, but they do recognize, they are aware of the efforts and do appreciate all of those, especially on Memorial Day weekend and weekends like this, who are working to honor the fallen. Back to you.
Well, this next story takes us back to May 17th when a group of merchant mariners from World War II paid a visit to the World War II Memorial. They played a crucial role in our country's war effort, but it took decades for the U.S. government to recognize them as veterans.
Our Bob Barnard shares their heroic tale and their ongoing fight for justice.
The government forgot about us. We were expendable.
Behind the aging smiles, beneath the apparent pride, is a rather deep-seated bitterness among these merchant mariners from the Second World War.
We were the first ones to lose our lives, and nobody recognized that. They kept calling us civilians. How could we be civilians when we're under the military?
10 merchant mariners will, as a group, receive the Congressional Gold Medal Wednesday in a private ceremony in Statuary Hall, with their families today gathering at the World War II Memorial, more than happy to tell you how they really feel.
The Merchant Marine was on every invasion in the Pacific and Europe, and we still got nothing.
Gerard Driscoll is 95 years old, visiting from his home in Pennsylvania, served in the Pacific Theater, transporting troops, food, and ammunition across treacherous seas throughout the war.
We were there before anyone else. The first ships that got torpedoed were merchant ships.
Charles Mills is 101, a lifelong Texan, served in both the Atlantic and Pacific theaters, had to wait until 1988 before the U.S. government would consider merchant mariners veterans.
We had to fight tooth and nail to get Congress to finally recognize the fact that we were veterans and that we were entitled to be recognized as such.
Now these men and their families want Congress to pass legislation that would give them a $25,000 lump sum tax-free payment for money they didn't receive during the war when their ships were sunk or they were captured.
The military got paid in the prison camps. Our guys didn't get paid.
But Mr. Mills says they're not giving up their fight for that remaining bit of justice.
We'll be back.
We'll count on that, as fewer than 1,500 merchant mariners from World War II survive to this day. Along the National Mall, Bob Barnard, Fox 5 Local News.
Still to come, we are saluting a hero in our community who has helped change the lives of thousands of military families.
And before we head to break, Fox 5 salutes our nation's veterans and the organizations that serve them every day. That is why we are making camo our cause in support of the Honor U.S. Vets campaign. You can join us by making a donation and wearing camo this Veterans Day. Post your camo on social with hashtag Honor US Vets. Share your support for the Make Camo Your Cause campaign by using the QR code on your screen or going to fox5dc.com.
Welcome back. Fox 5 is honoring heroes in our community, and we want to recognize the founder of a DC nonprofit for his service to military families suffering from tragedy.
Army veteran David Kim founded the Children of Fallen Patriots Foundation in 2002 in honor of a fellow artillery officer who was killed overseas, leaving behind a young daughter. Since then, the organization has provided full-ride scholarships to more than 2,400 students across the country who have lost a parent in the line of duty. That has amounted to more than $55 million in support of Gold Star children.
There's a very big need out there. There are 25,000 students or kids roughly who have lost a parent over the last 30 years. And so that's one of our missions, is to find all of them. That's our objective, is to turn this big negative of losing a parent into a big positive by helping them achieve the dreams that their parents would have wanted for them.
Kim was named the Military Times 2022 Veteran of the Year. And of course, we want to thank him for his service, not only to our country, but also to those families who have paid the ultimate sacrifice.
We also want to thank you for joining us for the stories that we've shared from some of our veterans. And for more information on our partnership with U.S. Vets, you can visit our website at fox5dc.com.
And we want to end our special show with a special performance by the Colgate 13. They're an all-male a cappella group from Colgate University. They performed the national anthem while making a visit to our studios here in Bethesda. We want to thank you for joining us.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting